and she wrote a book loosely inspired about me. Like
1, 2, 3, let's switch this up.
Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. Today I'm going to be doing my monthly wrap up for the month of January. Because I have less books to talk about, I can kind of go a little more in depth in my review or reflection. If you would like to see what I read and my thoughts on those books, then keep on watching. So I started the month off with a banger, and by banger I just mean it was really big. This is probably the longest book that I have ever read in my entire life, and it is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. This is the third book in the ACOTAR series. I really enjoyed this. I gave this, what did I give this? Let me pull up my story graph. 4.5. I gave this 4.5 stars. So this book is all about the battle, the war. Everybody for the most part that I've seen talk about this series usually says that the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, is their favorite book, and this book, A Court of Wings and Ruin, is their least favorite book. There are a few that say that A Court of Silver Flame is their least favorite book, but I haven't gotten that far yet, so I don't know. But this actually is my favorite book in the series so far. I loved this book. I'm not sure why people didn't like this. I mean, I guess if you're really into romance, this book is not focused on the romance. Is there romance in here? Sure, it's sprinkled in here and there, but the focus, like I said, is on the war and all the different courts kind of getting together and trying to strategize how they're going to take on this impending war. And I love this. The banter in this, oh my gosh, the dialogue in here is fantastic. There are so many moments where I'm just it's the clapbacks for me. The back and forth, the witty one-liners, the insults. I was here for all of it, and I absolutely loved this. And don't even get me started on the end of this book. Oh my gosh, when you get to the actual war itself, when they're actually on the battlefield, it is insane. It was like watching a fight. Literally, I mean, it was a fight, it was a war, but it was just watching a fight where you're just cheering 1 second and then you're like, oh no. You're rooting for the player and the player is getting their ass handed to them. That's what reading the end of this book was like. You're just when are they gonna catch a break? When are they gonna win this war? I don't even know. At this point, it's not looking good. The next book after A Court of Wings and Ruin is A Court of Frost and Starlight, and this is just a little novella. So this doesn't have any real plot to it. It's kind of just the aftermath of the war, how people are kind of coping with everything that's happened and trying to regroup and rebuild and all of that. I liked what Feyre did in this story, how she was able to kind of give back, and I like the fact that she wanted to give back and that she was trying to help the community and all that. This book is the only book so far in the series that is from multiple different perspectives, more than just Feyre, and I think sometimes you get Rhys's perspective, I think sometimes, but in this book you get Feyre, Rhys, and I think you get Cassian and Nesta. Nesta I'm still not a fan of. She's really annoying. I'm hoping that I'll maybe, you know, grow to like her a little more, once I learn more about her or see things from her point of view. But right now I find her very irritating. Don't like her. I gave this 3.5 stars just because it doesn't really have a plot. It's not really driven by anything. It's just kind of here's what's happening. So I didn't feel like it needed a higher rating than a 3.5. Usually when I spend too much time in a world with certain characters, I kind of get bored and fatigued of reading about them. But in this case, I actually wasn't. I actually almost didn't want to leave these characters. I almost wanted to go straight into the last book, but I had other books that I needed to get to, and that last book is big. I think it's bigger than ACOTAR, so definitely would not have had time to read any of the other books that I read this month had I gone straight into A Court of Silver Flame. Next, I read The Fear by Natasha Preston, and I mainly read this because I was told that this was kind of in the same category, giving off the same vibes as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But this book basically follows Izzy. Izzy is a high school student and she goes to school. I think this is their first day back to school. After winter break, you know, Christmas break, whatever, they're coming back to school. When they come back to school, apparently there was this meme that was going around that's been trending, that people have been reposting, and you repost the image and you're supposed to write the way that you are most afraid to die. So if you were most afraid to die by burning to death or drowning or having your head chopped off with a chainsaw, like whatever. And so people have been reposting it, and then there is a serial killer who started this meme, and they are now taking people out using the exact method that they posted that they were most afraid of. I think you get like 2 point of views. You get the point of view of Izzy, and then you also get the point of view of the serial killer, but you don't know who the serial killer is, obviously. I will say that the ending for this was there's something that happens at like the very end, like the last page of the book, and when I read it I was like, wait, huh? Was this something that was happening the whole time? Like, was this always part of the plan, or was this something that this character just spontaneously decided to do on the last page of the book? So I'm not sure. If you know the answer, then please like let me know, because I'm still confused. I liked the plot twist, but I didn't understand the plot twist. I gave this 3.75 stars. Although the first book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder was a 5-star read for me, the second and third book, I think I gave them somewhere around 4 stars. And I felt like this was just a little bit below that, which is why I gave it 3.75. This book definitely reminded me of Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I definitely understood the vibes. It's a high school student who's like trying to solve a murder case, and the difference is that in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder she was trying to solve like a cold case, and in this book she is trying to solve like an active, like ongoing case. Like this serial killer is actively killing people. Pippa in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder like decided like she was going to investigate this case. Like she took it upon herself to do this. In this book she kind of stumbles into it. She kind of just like falls into it, not on purpose, but then once she kind of falls into it, she then becomes invested in it, and then that's when she decides that she's gonna try to like solve this case and that the cops aren't doing their job. Also, one of the things that I really loved about A Girl's Guide to Murder, the first book, was the friend group. But this book, it's not so much the friend group itself, but it is the banter, like the dialogue amongst the different characters, that I found very amusing. There were a lot of conversations where I actually was like kind of like laughing out loud. So I did like that this kind of brought those vibes back. Next, I read Death Note Volume 2, and I think if you watched my last video, if you watched that video, then you already knew that I read this in the month of January. But I read Volume 2. I liked it just as much as Volume 1. I will say there is a new character that is introduced in Volume 2 that I'm not crazy about. That character's energy is just very like desperate and needy and clingy, and I just don't like when particularly female characters are like written that way. This volume is just as interesting and fast-paced as the first one was. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I thought it was great. Elle is very smart, Light is very smart. In this book they actually cross paths because they both end up going to the same college, and they're so smart that they're always like 10 steps ahead of the reader, or at least they're 10 steps ahead of me. So they'll be doing stuff and I'm like, why are they doing that? And then like once it all plays out, you're like, oh, I see what you did there. That's what I love about this book, is how like far ahead their like strategy always is when they're trying to like go back and forth. Like you'll be like reading like them thinking things out, and I'm like, wait, how did they even think of that? How did they even put that together? I would not have figured that out. I would not have thought of that. So I love this story. It just keeps getting better and better. The cover was cute and it had the word serial killer in it, and so that was what kind of hooked me, and it is Love in the Time of Serial Killers. I read this book in the month of January because this was the pick for my book club. This is what they voted on that they wanted to read. It was almost like Alicia Thompson is a pen name for like my best friend, and she wrote a book loosely inspired about me. Like this felt like it was my life. Like even though these specific things have not happened to me, this book is about Phoebe, and Phoebe is a PhD candidate, and so she's in the process of writing her dissertation on serial killers, which is exactly what I would write my dissertation on if I was going to go for a PhD. I've been saying this for years, actually, probably like the last 2 years. I've been saying that, so it's just really weird that here's a book of someone doing the exact thing that I've been talking about doing for the last 2 years. Her parents, I guess I should say, had a tumultuous relationship. They ended up getting divorced, and that ultimately affected her and kind of how she views love and all that kind of stuff, which is also extremely relatable. Her father passes away So her and her younger brother, which I also have one of those, go to their father's house to kind of like, you know, clean everything out and get everything prepared so they can sell the house. And she's staying there while they're helping to clean it out because she lives in another state. And the next door neighbor is a little suspicious, and she is wondering if maybe he is a serial killer? Question mark. Her brother is like happily in a relationship, meanwhile she is very single, also very relatable, and her brother is in the process of trying to come up with how he wants to propose to his girlfriend, and so she's also helping with that. She has reconnected with an old friend, and like they kind of went their separate ways or kind of fell out of touch because of something that happened in their past, so you kind of get to see them try to work through you know, stuff that they kind of left unresolved when their friendship fell apart. Some of the stuff this girl says is like, oof. Like, I think that I am a lot like her in the way that she thinks, not necessarily in the way that she acts. I also really liked the representation in this book. This book features plus size, LGBTQ, and racial diversity within the book. I gave this book 4 stars. And those are all the books that I read for the month of January. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you are not already subscribed. Comment down below if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them, or if you plan to read any of them, or if you have any recommendations based on how I felt about these books. As always, my social links will be down below in the description box, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. I'm just like, oh, you're me if I was like on steroids or like on crack or something. Like,